Just answering questions with Web Tech. Here we go. We have never been to the moon. The Van Allen radiation belt. Too many holes in the moon landing story. We'll do a vid on that, but let's see how much I can get done in this short vid here, and then maybe I'll cover that at the end. Why is nobody talking about Stephen Paddock's emails to himself? Virtually everybody I know who uses email uses their email as a note to self. They also carbon copy things to other people and blind carbon copy them if they're trying to be even a little bit secure, which means when they receive a copy that they've sent to themselves, they don't see the email address going to anybody else, so it just says they're sent to themselves. Do you think, that there is something there? Who is sending this? It's him sending it to himself. He was probably sent it to other recipients and wanted a copy of it for himself. Then there's the come out here and shoot them for yourself and see. He's communicating with someone about this. Well, if we look at his emails, do you actually have a copy of the emails? I mean, literally a verbatim copy of it with the header information. Then I could tell you what's going on. I'll look into it, but I will literally use that quote for the video if you like. But you have to point to it when you do these things. Probably not the exact quote. Well, if it's not the exact quote, we can't find it, because that's a requirement. It's a base minimum. It's like, you know, do you like beating your wife? It's one of those exact quotes that gives you an answer. If you literally type that in, you will find out what that comes from. You don't need a lobotomy to know it's easy for someone else to read it if you give them a password. No, it isn't. Many email systems, including the one that I think they were referring to, has a nasty problem of not liking it when you change machines. But he might have made it completely floating by turning off two-step verification, which I recommend people do because I don't trust it. It locked me out of one of my accounts for a while. But the point is, why wouldn't you just send the email to somebody or post it anonymously to a text posting area? Why would you go through the effort of making sure your own email address was in some secret communication and then give someone direct access to all of your other email data? That's way beyond necessary. If he was sending emails to himself, he would just send it blind carbon copy and then erase the original and the outbox version and just keep the returned copy to himself, which is what this looks like. I mean, that's a much more... That sounds convoluted, but that's literally how you would do it to where it'd be very difficult or impossible to trace who it was sent to, which would be the point. But in this case, all I'm hearing about is him sending emails to himself as notes to himself. This is something I do and a lot of other technical people do. And a lot of people do this blind carbon copy thing because they've been taught to. I've drilled it into people's heads that they need to use blind carbon copy. Next, my question is... You know, and most intelligent people know, whether you're rich or just came across money, if you transfer $10,000 or more, every account is flagged. That's not actually true. It is in the first stages, but if you're a very rich person, the account gets monitored, but it's monitored for IRS tax purposes, need-to-know basis, and that sort of thing. But here we go. Unless it's actually something that looks like money laundering, if you're an accountant, they get tired of reviewing you. You can ask an accountant about this, but anyway. The appropriate authorities are questioned of why and to whom. I'm assuming what you're saying is appropriate authorities like the FBI question whom and why. Okay, well, the guy's been an accountant for a very, very long time, is worth an ass ton of money, and goes to Vegas all the time. After a while, he'd say, I'm literally standing in Vegas, and I do nothing but gambling, and there's lots of money going around. After a while, I'm sorry, but I don't know if you know this, rich people don't get flagged because they're rich. You and I are not rich people, we get flagged. He's a rich person. Next. Why did Joe Lombardo say Paddock was never on the FBI warning list? I don't know if he was or wasn't. I don't listen to Lombardo. I'm waiting for the FBI report, but it doesn't show that he was ever on any warning list because the warning list is for people who have some connection with violence and that sort of thing or criminal behavior. He might have been checked out by this or audited, which is what I would assume would happen. But if you show a clear collection of information in your IRS tax forms, if he declared all of his income, there's nothing to check because he's handing it to him on a silver platter. Just because you have a lot of money going around does not make you go on the FBI wanted list or whatever. Even if that list was transferring $100,000 to the Philippines, of course they were aware of who he was and why would they lie? They didn't lie. Why are you saying they're lying? They're aware of his transactions and finances. He's one of many people in the world who does real estate and gambling and also worked as an accountant. But accountants and people who do real estate are very common. Do you think all of them are on the FBI watch list when they transfer large sums of money? Many people who run these sort of things transfer large sums of money to buy a building, because buildings are $1 million and above in most cases. So $100,000 ain't shit. We are poor people. We think like poor people. Rich people think of money as just some material to work with, sort of like wood or paper when you're trying to do something, like build a house or write a book. It's not relevant to them. I'm not kidding. People who make a lot of money literally treat it as a commodity to be converted into something else. That's why I wonder why somebody would ask me about somebody worth billions of dollars doing a $40 million stock option and have that look suspicious. It's 40 million stinking dollars. He doesn't give a shit about that. Bill Gates and all those people don't care about that kind of money. Next. Your tour through from that day. Okay. Also, your tour through that from day one, LPD. Your thought that from day one, LPD said it was one person, period. Yes, it was one person. They didn't find any evidence of any other shooters. They always assume there's more, but they didn't find any evidence of another shooter. That's it. Period. Full stop. If they find evidence or any kind of suspicion of it, they check on it. At the final press conference of this investigation, why would he said now he thinks it's a terrorist act? Redefining terrorism as involving something non-terroristic, is that to protect the hotels from lawsuits? I don't know, maybe. That would actually be an example of maybe some collusion on his part with the hotels, because local sheriffs and police departments are guilty of that all the freaking time. Fine. But that doesn't mean that there was more than one person. Terrorism doesn't mean conspiracy, because it actually doesn't. Normally, it doesn't require conspiracy. It just has to be an act that is motivated by the specific definition for terrorism. Them saying it's terrorism may be that. I don't know. You could decide that. But that doesn't indicate that there's only one person. I mean, that there isn't only one person. It could indicate there's more than one person, sure. But you'd have to find some evidence for it. But you've already answered your own question there. Again, a person transferring large sums of money is not automatically on the FBI warning list if they've been doing it for over a decade and their job was to move money anyway, and they declared everything on their taxes and didn't hide anything. Okay, Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts are not a universal death sentence. There are certain measurements for them. The person asking about this, I will do a separate video on the Van Allen belts and their actual radiation level compared to being near radiation sources that some of us have a kind of a reference point to. I'd like to point out that a very large number of people did not die from being blasted with radiation from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I'll be using that as one basis. And the other one will be people who were downwind from Chernobyl, because that's an appropriate set of measurements. Also, all of the people who were downwind from all the nuclear tests in the United States. Okay? And what kind of radiation and what it really does. Radiation isn't the same thing for each thing. See also a channel called Forbid TV. He talks about this all this kind of stuff all the time and explains it. You might want to look into him. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good